if you want to go see turtles and different kind of birds, Cabo Verde is the place to be. But it's a country as well that is declared a middle-income country in Africa, one of the few countries in Africa that has gotten outside the poor status, right? So they're doing something great for themselves. But then again, remember, the economy is powered by locals who live outside. So remittances is what pushes the country's economy. But the proverb today, every cat has a taste for a mouse.
Every cat has a taste
For a mouse.
For a mouse.
Kila paka iko na taste buds ya. Let me break it down in Swahili.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my gosh. So basically, whatever you do, a cat is a cat. And it will definitely have a taste for a mouse. So basically, okay, I'm trying to contextualize this in politics.
Of course.
And I'm like, I'm looking at the papers, Ruto after Raila. So who's the cat there and where are the mice?
The taste will
I'm
come
getting
out.
it right.
The taste will
The
come
taste
out.
is coming out.
Exactly. Yeah, so, a cat is a cat. You tested a mouse before, even at your 90s. You
still want to
have
go
that
back
taste
for
bud,
it.
So, yeah.
Okay. So whatever you do, remember a cat is a cat.
A cat is a cat.
Interesting. Okay, well, if that is the case.
And very timely. Very timely.
Indeed. So we could look at the overtures quite a lot, because depending on where you apply them. But this week kind of plunged Kenya into a bit of a worrisome place, whereby the underlings of tribalism have always tried to poke their head, and people will say things and then get tossed about. But this week it was very clear that perhaps Kenya hasn't left that behind just yet. And this is, of course, going directly to what the Nyeri governor did say. He did apologize. He made an apology to the family. He made an apology to the whole of Kenya. And not only that, but he stepped aside from his position as deputy, or rather vice chair of the Council of Governors, and seems to have done what it was required, per se, to then make amends for what he said. But the overtures were still very loud, that it was very clear that many a Kenyan, many a politician were not ready to leave it behind. That it's not something you can apologize for after having said it, because did you apologize because the world expected you to, or did you mean what you said?
First of all, I think it was in very, very bad taste. And I actually spoke out about it. I think some of these leaders might be old in age, but very immature. Yeah, in thoughts and in spirit. And I think he got a little bit excited there, and just became cantankerous. I believe his utterances should have never even come to his mind to begin with. But then what you see afterwards, after a person apologizing, and obviously even if you apologize, it doesn't mean everything is going to be, okay. But what you see after that is now you start understanding why he even spoke them in the first place. Because it's like we are at that state where, particularly the biggest losers from Raila Odinga's death are just waiting for the next thing to hang on to. And for me, it felt like there were sections of people who are generating hate from something that has already, it's like it was an off utterance. It was very irresponsible of Governor Kahiga. He apologized. He stepped down from the thing. Why are you dragging this thing along? Because you'll see, and I've said this before, there's been attempts at getting the Mount Kenya community against the Luos and vice versa. And remember, there was even a time where they started saying this thing of I can't even remember the exact utterances, but everyone was like, "Oh, I'm Wanjiru." Everyone gave themselves a Kikuyu name. Remember?
Yes.
Because Kenyans were like, "No, we've seen what you're trying to do there. We've seen that you're trying to create this rift, and we're not buying into that story." And so everyone suddenly gave themselves a Kikuyu name. And I was like, at least now people are starting to be aware about the manufactured hate. So Governor Kahiga said whatever he said, and that was in bad taste. We should have moved on literally 2-3 hours after he resigned. But there are individuals who would like to see that rift between Luo Nation and the Mount Kenya. And those are the people who kept on pushing the narrative, doing press conferences, doing the most. And you're like, don't you have anything else to do? I personally felt like the Council of Governors literally were too excited about it. I can't even, I was thinking, what is the word? They were too excited. Because I've never seen the Council of Governors calling a press conference for all the deaths that have happened. All that, because we've had deaths, the Gen Z deaths. The other day in the stadium when people were viewing Baba's body, over 6 people were killed. We didn't see the Council of Governors coming out. We've had, even the Council of Governors didn't come out to address the quarry dam issues. So now they've so you could see there was like people being told, sasa imekuja, sasa let's run with this one, sasa nyie endeni mfanye press, and it's just.
But to what end though? Why?
Because the idea is to create, now that Baba, may his soul rest in peace, now that Baba is gone, the idea is to make sure that no section of Luo Nyanza forms any alliance with anyone else except when they are brokered into, for instance, you had in the funeral, the 2-term alliance. So the idea was, even if you thought that maybe you can now start having conversations with Rigathi Gachagua, no, those people hate you. Look, Rigathi has sent his person to say that they hate you. In fact, don't come to Bondo and things like that. So it was so manufactured. For some of us who are actively in this politics, I was like, I can see how this is something that, for instance, Governor Gladys Wanga would take like to Gear 5, because it would, the direct beneficiary of the rift between Mount Kenya and Luo Nyanza would be people like her, so that they can now go broker deal with William Ruto, which is what they're doing anyway as we speak. Yeah, so for me,
they're brokering a deal with William Ruto to do what?
Gloria? I mean, because Baba left ODM while in government. Yeah, and there was the handshake, and he was the person that was controlling whatever it is that was in that handshake arrangement, including when they were leaving, when they were not leaving, when they were threatening to leave. Now that he's gone, there are many people who are not happy with that handshake within ODM. We saw it, the likes of Sifuna, Babu, Owino. There are many people who are like, you know what, may God rest his soul in peace. But, it's a relief that we can now get out of this arrangement of the 2-term. And so now what you see happening is there are those who want to stay in that arrangement because they are the direct beneficiaries. Yeah. And there are those who feel like, no, this handshake actually, with the 10-point agenda that we've had, nothing has been executed. Why the hell are we still, in this handshake manenos? So that's the long and short of what you saw with Governor Kahiga. I think he is a very responsible leader to have uttered those kind of words. Thank God he actually went ahead to resign. And I saw afterwards the Council of Governors, they fired him, and I just thought all the Council of Governors, the officials, should be fired because they're honestly, I thought if Kahiga outsmart you, if Governor Kahiga manages to outsmart you as a Council of Governors, sincerely, you need to quit. I actually thought that is like a breach of Chapter 6 on leadership. Yeah.
You see, we talk about the tribalism that we see in the country, and it has now been spinned to be political mileage in terms of how do we take advantage of this situation for me to retain power, for me to be the spokesperson of the Luo Nyanza. Because one would stand and say, we have banned you from coming to Bondo. As who? Is it your backyard?
Yeah, as who?
And you just look at all that, and one would argue that what Kahiga did was wrong. Fine, he apologized. But what you're equally doing is the same thing that Kahiga did. So why is the current political machinations or planning following Baba's death seems as though people are really trying to gain political mileage from Baba's death? Because
that's what these people, they hang on to Baba, they overburdened him with their lazy kind of thinking. They literally just weighed him down. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but sometimes I think that if Baba didn't have all this baggage of all these politicians who are useless, I think even some of the illnesses that he was going through, he wouldn't have gone through them, because they burdened him. You have political deadweights who just hang on to Baba. And for some reason, being the person that he was, perhaps even, let me say, the kind person that he was, he felt the need to carry all this weight on his shoulder. You see people like Governor Sakaja who can't just, you won the damn seat as a governor of Nairobi. Just work so that Nairobians can see you working and they'll get you reelected. No. Just hang on to Baba. hang on to Baba on everything. So I feel like people have used Baba and have literally overburdened him when he was alive, and even in death, they are hanging on to him like you will not believe it. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but these people, if given a chance, they would even take his body to do politics with it. That's the kind of horrible some of the leadership we have in this country. That they don't know what else to do. They are so used to hanging on to Baba that the panic that you see, you know, when Governor Kahiga unfortunately said those utterances, ODM came out with like 7 press conferences. Everybody was at press conference, you know, everyone trying to ride on to that. And, you know, I mean, to me, it felt like if you're confident in who you are as a politician and the work that you're doing for your people, you don't even need to put out a press conference. I mean, Wanga has put out a press conference, Orengo put out a press conference, Governor Simba Arati out with his press releases, and everybody, it was like everyone was busy. Why?
Talking.
Why? You know, why? Let it go. And one person has spoken. They're all fighting to figure out what are we going to do life after Baba. I really like even the Standard front page, Ruto after Raila, because really it is a reality. It is Ruto after Raila. It is life after Baba. It is, for some people, it is what next after Baba, because their political careers are dead. They were buried on
just
Sunday.
a little bit. All right, their careers were buried on Sunday, meaning because this word overtures just comes and plays out here, whereby the assumption is that there are a lot of positions that people hold today, whether it is MCA, whether it is Member of Parliament, whether it is Senator, courtesy of Baba, because he spoke a word and the people said, okay, we will give it to you because Baba has said.
Yes.
Now, in his absence, does that mean that these positions are all but gone?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the looming cabinet reshuffle. Why? There are people who Baba literally fought for and continued to fight for till when he was in India. In death, he was fighting for them. And even in those spaces, they bring nothing. They bring nothing to the table. They are not wanted. They were only there because Baba wanted them there. Even the cabinet reshuffle should tell you that it's like, okay, now we are done. You know, old man has passed on. Rest his peace. Rest his soul in peace. Now we move on. And, you know, there were people crying. And I don't know. I really want to say that I have a lot of respect for His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, because he could have gone to that funeral and he could have done what every other politician was doing at that funeral. PR and networking as to life after Baba. But I feel like understanding where he was with Baba, and in all fairness, one thing that people have to understand is that when we were impeaching Rigathi Gachagua, it would not have been possible if the handshake was not there. It would not have been possible to get enough numbers to impeach Rigathi Gachagua in both houses if Raila Odinga had not said, okay, let's impeach him. It would not have been possible, because the ODM members were guided by what Raila as the party leader wanted. Yeah. And when he told them, you know, for the betterment, whatever situation, I wasn't there, but I imagine he had a conversation with them about, we need to move forward. We are now in the handshake. The country needs to move forward. And, you know, this guy, they don't want him, blah, blah, blah. Whatever he sold the story to, the ODM, most of those ODM members actually impeached Gachagua at the request of Raila Odinga. So people are saying, be a statesperson, put it aside, go and whatever. You have never been a deputy president who has been impeached. You have never been a deputy president who knows that the impeachment only happened because of the goodwill of Baba. So you don't know what he's going through. The same way that you feel that, you know, this is my hero. You don't know what someone else feels about that person. So I feel like out of respect, he chose to stay away. And I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. At first I was like, come on, you know, get over it, go for the funeral. And then someone put it into context with even what is happening with me. You know, there are some people today, if they died, I wouldn't go for their funeral. because of how they have contributed towards some of the trials and tribulations that I am going through. And you're not going to tell me, suck it up and go for the funeral because you're a leader. No, I will mourn you in my own way, however way I want to, or I will keep absent, So I feel that as politicians, for once, Kenyans are seeing politicians for who they are. Yeah. I mean, the governor from Mombasa was wailing, posing for pictures in his somber mood. I'm sorry, but I didn't buy it at all.
I mean, let's look at, many have said that now that the death of Babu, may he rest in peace, has happened, that there are many political orphans who don't know where to go.
Absolutely.
And that further look at it in terms of Luo Nyanza and even Baba supporters, that finally now the issue of if Baba holds your hand, you become the de facto leader, you don't even need to go campaign, that finally leaders will go back to the people and convince people why they deserve that vote.
I feel that also, just putting that in a blanket statement like black and white, it's Baba did a lot of things for Luo Nyanza. Even if people are like, oh, now we can, you de facto go to there are places, by the time also Baba held your hand, you had to have done something, or you had to have proven to the people that, I don't think you would just wake up and take, the next relative and say, okay, this is your MP. There was some sort of political, he was also politically wise. So for people to say like, oh, now we are liberated, I feel like that's a bit of a stretch in terms of Luo Nyanza. There are areas, for instance, in Migori, where the women rep was an independent candidate. Why? Because the hand that was held by Baba at that time, the people didn't feel like that is the leader that we wanted. So the people have always had the freedom to vote. I don't think they should blame Baba so much so for that, because there are areas where Baba held the hand and guys were like, no, I'm sorry, Baba, we love you, but this one we are not going to give you. But I think what is happening is, of course, Baba had so much influence. And even when he would speak to the masses, he would convince you that, listen, you might think this one is a leader, but I'm telling you, I've seen through ABCD that this one is the leader. And that is what you're seeing, all differences trying to replace Baba. It can never happen. You are not going to replace him. You are not, I'm sorry to say, I do not like fighting women, especially in politics and in leadership, because I know how difficult it is to get there. But we also have to call each other out. But I'm sorry to say, Gladys Wanga, that's not how you're going to convince the masses that you are befitting to take over that party. I think in one way or another, Kenyans also, Kenyans are not stupid.
I can see.
Yeah? Like, you see how they made sure that Babu Owino doesn't speak anywhere. But somehow, even when they were doing those introductions, just the name of Babu Owino drove the masses crazy. And it's not to say that Babu Owino is a saint. No, for crying out loud, he's not a saint. He has done so many things that I am so against of, But sometimes the people understand that this is the person we trust, and this is the person that we want to follow. And I really do hope that Babu Owino breaks away from all that circus that has become ODM now, and just forms his party, because the people will follow him. The people are just waiting for him to give direction. They will follow him. Some of these things, no matter how much you want to manufacture them and fix them like a Lego or whatever, when God has given you favor, things just fall in place. And I believe, for whatever reason, Babu Owino has God's favor. That's what I believe. Yeah, and I should be the last person to say that, because I've criticized him a lot of times with the incidences of the shooting and all that. We've done shows with him where we've been arguing. But also you have to come to a realization that leadership is so complicated in many ways that sometimes you wake up in 2025 as Babu Owino, having shot a DJ and having had all those tribulations, and God has said, you are the person who I want you to lead the Luo. And how are you going to argue with God? What you see these other people doing is arguing with God. It is useless. It's counterproductive. It's just a matter of time before. In fact, I used to tell people, and I don't know why William Ruto and his people don't see this. When we were campaigning for William Ruto in 2022, there's nothing that he didn't go through. There's nothing that the government of the day didn't do to him. or to his people. But in the end, he sat in State House.
And yet, it's interesting that you say that, because then when the principals or the would-be generals or the folks then who were, subservient to Baba in one way or another, when they hear the things that you say now about individuals like Babu, Edwin, Sifuna, they seem to get a bee in their bonnet.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to hear that. Why would that be in the political sphere?
Most of those people who do not like Babu, who do not like Sifuna, have never worked hard to create their own brand. They have never had their own brand. If I tell you ODM, and just by the top, I give you 10 seconds, mention people. I don't think you'll go past 10. Like, just out of the, you will be like, oh, Babu Owino, Sifuna, Millie Odhiambo. Then you start hanging, You start hanging because you're like, okay, who are the other people we know in part? Because they've never really created their own brands. And that's why they look at, and this thing, I say it as a personal experience. Even in Senate, the people who had the biggest fights with me are people who will never be able to create their own brands. They'll never stand for anything. They'll never go out there and push an agenda. They want to have it easy and still fight you who's creating your own brand. Babu has created his own brand over the years. His own brand. He was the only person who the parliamentarians were calling him to go to Kasarani so that he could calm down the crowds during the viewing. In Parliament, Gladys Bosrole, Deputy Speaker, renowned politician, was unable to address the masses. She had to give the leaves to Babu and beg Babu, please, tell these people not to break through to Parliament. So, sometimes, and that doesn't come easy. It doesn't come to enter a room and command the space is something you work on and you create as a politician, as a leader. Most of these leaders used to survive through the brand that Baba had created. So now, when that's not there are some people who can never enter any room and address any crowd. And those are the people who are fighting the likes of Babu and Sifuna. And who, you see, after I say Babu and Sifuna, I kind of have, I'm like, the other ODM people. You see what I mean, eh? Yeah, because I'm not talking about a brand within your constituency. I'm talking about a national brand. A brand where, when I go to Samburu, people know me in Samburu. No, Mama Wapads. A brand where you can go anywhere in this country and people know you for your work, not for your nonsense, for your work. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm unfortunately, when you look at most of these ODM politicians, they don't have it.
So, if this is the case, why is there such a spirited effort or attempt, even as it is on the front of the Standard today, for then the president and the party, in this case, not government, the president and the party, UDA, to then be in this tight camaraderie with ODM, if there's really nothing to offer? Or is it the dregs, is it the substance, that the spirit of Raila Odinga and the movement that they're after, or the people to increase the numbers, thinking that Kenyans will support? What's that for?
You see, there was a level of comfort that President William Ruto had when he had Baba in government. And nobody anticipated that Baba was going to die, to be honest. And that level of comfort was that in our mathematics of numbers, we had Luo Nyanza locked because Baba would convince his people to vote for us for a second term. Yeah? Now, in the absence of Baba, William Ruto is not a stupid politician. He knows that he can't be comfortable. He can't be comfortable because their biggest undoing was they were very comfortable. And that comfort, I used to wonder, where would it come from? Because even if Baba had not died, I don't think Baba was going to support them in 2027. But there's a level of comfort. So what you see happening is the panic for particularly William Ruto trying to figure out how will I hold on to this Luo Nyanza. I'm sorry to say this, that's why a lot of things happened the way they happened in the funeral, and they kept on saying it's a state funeral. Because it's a state funeral, we can't allow ABCD. I mean, a state funeral or not a state funeral, and you can say whatever you want to say, I don't know, I'm amateur, I don't know, but your friends should be allowed to bid you farewell. SK Mashara, everybody knew that was Raila Odinga's friend for the longest time. They should be allowed to bid you farewell. Martha Karua, who partnered with him, should have been allowed to bid farewell to the... But
My friend.
yeah, it was the way it was being controlled. It had nothing to do that it was a state funeral. It had everything to do with the fact that we need to bury this guy, but we need to make sure that they do not destabilize further the Luo Nyanza block. So what you're seeing in the front page of the Standard is, I call them Ruto's pawns. How is he? Which ones can he use? Which ones can he use to keep Luo Nyanza? You know, and he's very aware that there's some people he can absorb and keep very close to him, but they don't have the ground. They don't have the people. The idea is not an individual. The idea is taking an individual who can sway the masses to stay within the two-term movement.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you look at all those faces, I'm sorry to say, other than Sifuna and Babu Owino, and maybe Caleb to some stretch extent, even if he adopts all the rest of the other ones, he will just have one vote each. One vote for Buru, one vote for Gladys Wanga, one vote for Paranya, one vote for Mbadi. Maybe even Mbadi will not vote for him, but one vote for Mbadi. And that's it.
And that's it. So, if you look at this and this political chess that's being played, if we go back to where we started this conversation, is the tribal card then important?
Yes.
And how?
Because, you know, I don't know why Kenyans want to
And is
imagine-
tribe in this case a bad thing?
We come from somewhere. I've said this before. You can never detach Kenyans from the tribe. Maybe in another 100 years after we've all intermarried and we've dissolved our languages. But even now in intermarriages, there's another video I shared where there's a Gen Z who happens to be both Kikuyu and Luo, and he speaks both. You would think he would speak none. He speaks both. So depending on the day or whatever favors him, he is Kikuyu, and another day he's Luo. You can never detach Kenyans from tribe, because our roots, that's where we come from. You are born from somewhere. You have cultures from somewhere. I don't know why people see it as a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. It can only be negative when it is used for divisive politics. But to say that we don't want to look at the tribal lines, that's actually hiding ourselves, you know, putting your head under the sun. We have to understand that when all is said and done, Gloria Orwoba is from Kisii. First, she's from Kisii. Then she's a woman. Then other things. Then she supports so and so and so and so. Then we break it down. Everywhere you go in this country, you say, "Oh, what's your name?" Gloria says, "Ah." Then they say,
You're from
wherever. You're from wherever. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a very unique thing, because not many countries have that kind of diversity. So you can't now start telling politicians, stop looking at the tribe thing. No, because also at the end of the day, we have a factory reset where when all is said and done, we go back home and we're like, who's going to liberate us from these our regional issues? And then you look at a regional leader. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that can be negative about that is when you end up choosing leaders for their tribe, but they're not working. Yeah, but I don't see anything wrong with that. And by the way, whether you like it or not, in whichever election, at least the ones that I have been involved in since I've been an adult, it will always come down to tunangoja kura za hii region. Tunangoja na zote za Luo Nyanza zimekuja, because you know that's the influence. And then another thing that you need to understand is, I don't know why people are trying to remove yourself from the region. When you, for instance, Nyamira and Kisii, our problems as people are the same. So we want to be guided by a leader who understands our problems as Kisiis. We are producers of matoke and whatever. So when we are also looking for leadership, we are seeking for leadership that understands this is where our pain points are as farmers. This is where our pain points are as, for instance, miners of soapstone. So you can't tell us, go and listen to a leader, let's say from the coast region. They don't have soapstone there. We have soapstone. We want to be told what is. So somehow, even the idea of the geographical location definitely has influence on the leaders that you choose. So I think it's a bit simplistic thinking to say, you know, this tribe thing. No, the tribe thing is a factor. The only thing we are saying to people is, after you have said, okay, this tribe, do those people actually have leadership qualities? Will they actually be able to lead you as a community? Will they be able to bring development, ensure that we have, a good living, So, but to say that, no, we're not going to think of tribe, no. In fact, today, it's all about, when you look at the front page newspaper, that is Luo and parts of Western.
You mentioned something very critical. There's a movie that we are watching here. It's a series called Yellowstone, and it talks about the state of Montana and how the white settlers and the Indians, the original settlers of the U.S., always fight for that land. And anytime there is a political chess game, there is always need to bring both sides. And one would talk about different tribes in this case and how they come to find solutions on what affects them, but everyone comes with their support base. And that is not Kenya. We're talking about the United States.
Yeah.
So here we are talking about our tribes, where we belong, where we come from. Remember, the Constitution recognizes our cultures and where it is we come from. But how then do we use our tribes for the good? Because one would say what is happening right now is people are taking advantage of their tribes to sow division. How do we deal with that so that even as we recognize our tribes and where we belong, we use it for the good and the benefit of the people and the country?
For me, I feel like it's a double-edged sword. When we talk about liberating this country, right now everyone is looking at the united opposition to liberate the country. What constitutes of the united opposition? Tribes. So that's a clear example of how you can use tribes in a positive way, because it's a region, it's regions coming together to liberate the country from what we feel is a lot of oppression, bad economics, So those are tribes coming together to liberate the country. But what happened, for instance, with the utterances of Governor Kahiga, that's now the opposite of it, because it's using the tribe and a tribe setup to cause division between two communities.
Right.
And that's why everyone was like, you don't do that. We are at the point where we are saying, come together, let us liberate this country. Not come together, let us fight between Luos and Kikuyus. Yeah. So there are many advantages to having those different, when I sit here and I tell you my type of leadership and what influences me largely is how I've been brought up and my roots and my background, And if we didn't have tribe, for instance, some certain issues that we are dealing with in specific tribes, God forbid, would be a national disaster. Because, for instance, even just take the matter such as FGM.
Yes.
FGM, yes.
FGM is like, it's tribe related.
There's certain
largely.
Yeah.
And then maybe an influence of religion. And I thank God that now we have different tribes, because in some places you go and they're like, what the hell, what's wrong with you people? But sometimes you have to be a bit you have to think beyond the black and white when it comes to this matter of tribe. I don't think it's a time where we should tell people, oh, we are one tribe, I'm not. No, I'm Kisii, I'm proud to be Kisii. But I'm also Kenyan. And I'm proud to be Kenyan. That's the national platform. And as a Kisii, I think this is how I can contribute to the Kenyan economy. Through this kind of farming, through this kind of thinking. We always laugh about saying that you throw a stone in Luo Nyanza and you hit a doctor. Yeah? So it's a pride they have that as Luos, everyone is very educated. So everyone brings something to the table. Every 47 tribes, there is something special that they bring to the table. I don't think it's a time to tell people that let's stop recognizing your tribe. No, I think it's a time to tell people you are unique in every different way that you are in each of these tribes, but let's come together to liberate this country.
So gone are the days where we are saying that one is pitted against the other, or one is elevated over the other, and that's what we're going to use to divide people. But we're saying that tribe can actually be used for a good thing, where it's asking
for
people
unity.
to all bring about unity.
You see, like now, even the fights that you're seeing is because there's a clear understanding that in the united opposition, at least more or less a huge number of the regions are represented, right? And so now there's this issue of Luo Nyanza, and they felt like maybe they wanted to liberate this country, but their leader, had some sort of understanding with the current government of the day. So even the scuffle that you're seeing is about Luo Nyanza wanting to participate in the liberation of this country by joining the united opposition, which is why I feel that to people like Sifuna and Babu Owino, if it is proving to be difficult to persuade and convince those within the Orange Democratic Movement Party that they should now come out of that arrangement for whatever reason. I think these are people who have their own brands. If they break away and they form their own parties, the people will just move with them. Because I can tell you today, if Babu Owino forms a party, I promise you, membership within 2 weeks will just skyrocket. Yeah. So I think sometimes also as young people, we have imposter syndrome. We don't believe in ourselves that much. So there's always something that's holding you back. You keep thinking, let me wait for
somebody
Governor
else to make a
Orengo
move.
to tell me. Let me wait for, because we have, and it's something that within even the political spaces, when you try to come out, you are immediately pushed down. So we have a lot of imposter syndrome. But I would challenge these individuals, because it looks, also there comes a time in a community where you as a leader must rise up. You must rise up and you must lead your people. And with the confusion that is going on in ODM, I feel this is the time that Babu Owino should rise up and lead his people.
Here we are in also, so the next couple of days, and didn't even wait weeks or months, but the next couple of days, we're probably going to see that these realignments are going to start taking shape. But then under this, and this is all happening for maybe 200 people, 300 people max, right? The ones who will then be key in these decision making. But under here are millions of people who are asking for the country to be better. Are politicians aware? Yes, a big monumental shift has happened politically. But is there the awareness that there are Kenyans here who are still asking for things to be done better?
I don't think
seeking for governance to then be practiced out and lived out better.
I think with what is happening, particularly with some individuals, I don't want to be very categorical, lest they accuse me of just fighting people and women and what. I think some people are in a state of shock and mourning and anxiety and no clear path for their own personal future. And in that state, they are misleading the people, because they are not really thinking about what the people want in terms of things to be done, in terms of development. So it is that situation where masses of people are now being led by confused leaders, by leaders in shock, leaders who have panicked, leaders who have realized they probably don't have a future in politics, and they are just holding on to these masses. And unfortunately, the masses who follow them, they have not recognized that is not the path. That this might be a leader that we used to follow when they were sane and of sound mind, but in this couple of weeks, this is not someone we should follow, because this person is now on a self-destruction mission. Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because that's what's happening. And the leaders who because you see also another thing, you can't wake up and say because Raila Odinga has passed away, suddenly all the people who would follow all these MPs or the governors and whatever would suddenly just, say, okay, now we are looking for new leadership. No, they're still following their de facto brokers. Let me say they are de facto brokers to Baba. So Gladys Wanga has her people who will follow her to the grave, maybe. All these people, they have their people. And that's why this conversation, I feel, is a conversation that should be had with now the younger leaders who are more aware, who went out of their way to build their own brands despite the Baba factor. And that's why I keep saying this is a moment. There's a moment in leadership that comes. You don't need to be told. It just, you feel it. You know you must take a decision. This is the moment for people like Sifuna and Babu Owino to lead those masses. You just need, because whether you like it or not, people keep saying, leaders, no. People must be led. Even in your household, you don't even know, but you are led. Even you as the husband, you think you are in charge, but you are led. You are told what you are going to eat. You are convinced what time you are going to sleep. Somebody is leading you. There is an influence in that household that is leading you. People must be led. And if this confusion lasts another 1 week, it will be very unfortunate for Luo Nyanza, and maybe the other diaspora parts, Nairobi, Nakuru, that actually Baba had serious following. It will be very unfortunate, because what is going to happen is like the Tower of Babylon. It will come down. Yeah.
And you say in this, you mentioned Babu Owino. I heard him speak the other day saying, even when Baba was alive, with regard to the broad-based government, they sat down and they agreed that he would remain in opposition. he wasn't comfortable going to broad-based government. You listen to Sifuna speak, referring to what Raila Odinga said in that meeting in a hotel not far. And he maintains that is the position and instructions. The last instructions were given by Raila Odinga. But then you look at the larger ODM, one would say those who built the party together with Baba. And there seems to be fear that the young Turks might take this away from us, and we need to do everything to prevent it. But how do you prevent an idea whose time
has come? And then there's also this entitlement of we are the founders of ODM, we are the people. One thing that I've come to appreciate is even if you are the founder of that party, that was what God wanted you to do. To start that party and then move the hell away from it. Or whatever. So you can't keep holding on to, I was the founder, so therefore I am. You played your part. And now God is saying, past finding this, the party is already established. Now, next, we are now going to have the young people who are going to move the party from point B to C. So I feel like the older, without any, I don't want to sound, okay, I'm biased. I feel like the older generation has this entitlement, like, Ichamani yetu. And that's why, for me, every time I look at the Esabu, because these formulas that anyone wants to come up with, they're like 7 factions of people fighting for the party. And it's becoming so complex that you ask yourself, what are you fighting for? Because you, as Sifuna, you have your own following. Or unless you know you don't have your following. Unless maybe there's something you know that we don't know. But if you know that you have your following and you have your leadership and you feel truly that this party is going in the wrong direction, just break away. It's 21 months to the election. Start arranging your things there on the side. And when the time comes, just break away.
At what point, Gloria, does the voice of the people then become integral? Because you look at ODM, and ODM is not Baba or the leadership or the NEC or the NDC. The leadership, one would argue, actually, is the NDC, the people who form the party.
No, ODM is Baba. Already you're wrong. ODM is Baba and Baba is ODM.
So doesn't the members of the party then have a say in terms of voting for the next leader of the party?
Yes. You see, when ODM is Baba, first of all, you can't say ODM is not Baba. ODM is Baba. And that's why on Sunday when Baba was put to rest, ODM was put to rest. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have all the chaos of people trying to fill in that space. The people in ODM and the masses were largely led by Baba. And that's the fundamental, that is the basis that is causing the chaos. The people believed and trusted and would give their lives. Some already gave their lives to Baba. They would die for him. And now those people are like, Sasa, who are we going to die for? Now that Baba is gone.
There was nobody else.
Yeah. And as much as ODM had, they didn't just die for him. Okay, yeah, sometimes some of them blindly. But you see, Baba just embodied this, let me say, God. He inspired these people. He moved these people. People didn't even want to understand. Tunapitisha ama tupitishi. Wewe tuambia tutaki kusoma hiyo bill. Wewe tuambia wewe ukisema it's Baba good for alisoma. Us, we are good for Baba alisoma. Because they trusted in their leader. You never see any other party leader, particularly in the older parties. UDA. People are asking me if I'm still in UDA. I'm still in UDA.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still in UDA. I get a lot of, I'm still in UDA. I'm still a member of UDA. In fact, orders were given that they cannot remove me. I have to come out at my own will and time. And I keep saying, the party leader we had when we were going the 2022 elections was, you would sit and be inspired. You would look at them and say, I want to follow this person. This person knows where we are going. You would be inspired. You would trust them 350%.
But they've changed now.
Yeah. Okay. And you see, that's what Baba also had. But Baba's was like, if our party leader had it to 20%, Baba was 120%. They would follow blindly. Because there was something, the way he carried himself, the way he articulated these things to his people, the way he inspired. You just want to be in that space. Yeah? When you look at all these other political parties that are mushrooming and that have been around, you don't have that kind of trust level. And you don't have that kind of, admiration of a party leader. beyond the ideologies of the party.
Does that constituency then have a say?
The constituency has a say if the party leader actually takes it seriously, which is what Raila Odinga took his own constitution serious because of the party, and he embodied it. And when people are in the streets, he would not sit in a boardroom and send you. He would be in the streets with his people. He was being tear gassed. You understand? So his people are like, this is truly our leader.
Come on.
So you don't even start going at, let's go and see what the constitution of the party says, because you know for sure 100% Baba is living in line with his party constitution. But then now you come over now to my party. You know what I mean? You look and you're like, am I inspired by this party leader?
Are you?
I used
You
to
just
be.
said that used to be. What
I
was the
used
number?
to be inspired.
350%. Okay.
I used to be inspired. Maybe I would sell you William Ruto any day of the week, Sunday to Sunday. And then now when realities, you know, the thing with Baba, he preached and then he lived what he preached. You know, he drank what he preached water and drank water.
Yeah.
Hey.
And he preached wine and he drank wine. This other one, you come, you sit, you're like, like, why are we doing this thing? So, you know, human beings, our nature is that you first, for you to even start following anyone, first, you have to be made aware of the person. So, okay, there's Gloria, there is, now you're aware. Then you have to now start be given attention to what does Gloria stand for in your life. Then after you say, okay, she stands for mtetezi wa mama, then you have to start looking at her. Is she really mtetezi wa mama? And her actions. And then you start believing ni mtetezi wa mama. And then beyond that, it reaches a place where she comes to your space and you truly see this is the real, you know, person. From there, it's now it's a relationship of building.